Joining us now, two-time Super Bowl champ and the host of Greenlight Pod as well. Here is Chris Long back on the program. How you doing, Chris?
Rich, what's up, man?
How you doing?
I'm not bad. Getting ready to go to Vegas for 5 days. What could go wrong?
What's your Super Bowl memories when somebody says, "Hey, man, you played in, you got 2 rings." What do you think of when you think of those rings, Chris?
I think of man, they're so different individually. New England was like I was ring chasing, right? Like so many guys that go up and sign with New England, and it just worked out. It was like playing the craps tables or whatever, and hitting it right. I don't play craps, so I wouldn't even know how to land the metaphor. But it's just picking the right team and ended up in the right situation, and right down to 28-3, thinking about half that game being the worst hour of my professional life, and then the greatest 15 minutes to that point of my life in professional football. And then Philly's a totally different deal where no one expects it. I know we're the 1 seed, but everybody's hurt. We've got Jason Peters down. We have Darren Sproles down. We obviously have the quarterback down, and so just 2 totally different situations. But when I think about them, like looking back, I think about the fact that it was impossible to soak it in. It just happened so fast. And no matter how hard you try to soak it in, it's like gone in a flash. And, it does change your life forever winning those things, but there's a huge risk, right? Going to the Super Bowl is you could lose it. And it was described to me by Rob Ninkovich, I think on the bench down 28-3 or something like that, was like, dude, trust me, you would rather go 0-16 than get to a Super Bowl and lose. It's the worst feeling in the world. So I just think about the gravity of every single play. I just think about, you can almost smell it, the intensity in the air when you play in a Super Bowl. So it was wild. My senses were on fire the whole game. It was crazy.
Yeah. By the way, it's the 7-year anniversary of that Super Bowl, 28-3, and then you guys flipping that script, and unreal. What is a Belichick Super Bowl speech like? What was that?
To be honest, and maybe some guys who were on the team will give you a better answer, but I don't remember. I barely remember the pregame speech. I don't remember what he said. Now, I remember at half we were down 28-3, or whenever we were down 28-3, and he literally just made it about making one play at a time, which is, I think a lot of coaches, you imagine, coming in passion, cussing people out. We got to do this, we got to do that. He was literally about getting one stop at a time, doing the things right that we weren't doing right offensively. And for me, being so conditioned to losing my whole career, being a 2-14 guy, being a 1-15 guy, coming from where I came from, you can't learn how to be a winner in those situations. I was not a winner. I was a real good player and all that, but I wasn't a winner. I didn't understand winning. And I didn't understand, because it gets reinforced in your head all the time, when something happens, something's going to go wrong. Like, you get to that point in the game, I'm used to something going wrong. And being down 28-3, I have never seen it turn out the way it turned out for us that day. So there were guys in there that at the time I thought were faking belief. I was like, there's no way y'all really believe this. I mean, I'm going to bust my ass until the final whistle because I have a lot of pride and that sort of thing. I'm actually used to this. Is my forte, playing down 28-3, but not winning down 28-3. So it was wild. And just his very matter-of-fact, breakdown of what happened in the first half. It wasn't over the top. We just went out there and executed.
Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show. And what was Brady like on the sideline down 28-3? You were down 21-3 at half, and then obviously 28-3 famously against 7 years ago today.
Well, I stayed away from him when we were down. I was like, this is probably the last 30 minutes that I spent with Tom Brady. I don't want to ruin it trying to walk up and give him a pat on the back when he's not in the mood for it or something like that. We just, on defense, we were so concerned with just getting a stop, because in that first half, we couldn't even get to third down. I think about, like, I, at that point, was the third down guy. I was playing inside a lot on first and second down, like in a 3 technique and that sort of thing. And I didn't love it, but I was willing to do it to be a part of that team and chase the ring. But eventually, Bill in the playoffs made me a third down guy. And I was fine with that. Okay, so I'm going to get like 20, 25 snaps in this game. You wait your whole life playing this game. The first half goes off. I think I played in 2 plays in the first quarter, maybe, because we could barely get to third down. And the first one I got in, I actually hyperextended my knee and chipped a little piece of bone off that I'd worried about later, but like a little fragment. And I can just remember being like, this is going to be the worst night of my life, huh? Like in the second quarter, like I'm barely playing. We're down big. Doesn't look like we're ever going to be rushing the passer. So I'm legitimately going to quit football after this game. Like, I'm done. I hate football. It's like, what a sick joke. You'd rather just kept me in St. Louis. They should have kept me and moved the team, and I could have gone 3-13 again, because that would be, as Ninko said, better than this. And then the flipping of that switch was Hightower. And it was really them messing up that protection early in the second half. And once they messed that protection up and Hightower went in unblocked and we forced a turnover, it was like everybody knew, okay, now it's not like a dream. We can actually beat these guys. We can come back and beat these guys.
Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show. And I just mentioned in the fourth quarter of that game, no points for the Falcons offense. In the fourth quarter of the previous Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the Niners, no points in the fourth quarter there. And that's part of the story for Kyle Shanahan coming into this game. Is there anything of that fourth quarter 7 years ago today that you were on the defensive side of the ball and the play calling that we saw there, and then maybe the play calling that we saw 4 years ago last Friday in the previous Super Bowl? Is there any through line that you think might affect what we see this coming Sunday, Chris?
Well, I don't think anybody's going to be up 28-3. You know what I mean? And I don't think anybody's going to be building some big lead. I really think it's going to be a good football game. I definitely lean Chiefs, but I think about the fact that a week ago, getting off script a little bit here, Dan Campbell got burnt by those fourth down decisions, and people made a big deal about it, like making bad decisions, blowing a 17-point lead. And I actually don't think they were the worst decisions in the world, okay, like because of what we talked about on the show last week. We don't need to go backwards. But the point is, Kyle Shanahan has been in a similar situation on a bigger stage. And I think it's pretty remarkable that he was able to get back and then now get back again. And I'm sure he came out of that game and at least in part blamed himself. I know Dan Quinn's the head coach at that point, but when you're up 8 points with about 4 minutes to go and plus territory, matter of fact, you're on like the fringe, I believe. You're like 30, 25-yard line. I can't remember. But they end up giving up a sack and a hold, and that knocks them out of field goal range. They're throwing the football. And so I don't know how Kyle thinks about that. I don't know if Kyle thinks about it in a different way than Dan might. I think Dan looks at those decisions he made last week and he's steadfast in the fact that this is who we are. We go for it on fourth down. We remain aggressive. But that wasn't even an aggressiveness thing. I think had they kicked the field goal in that situation, there's no chance we win that game. They go up 11, about 3 minutes to go in the Super Bowl. So I felt for Kyle, even though it's why I have a ring, and I have a lot of respect for him. And I respect what San Francisco has been able to build to get back there again now. And so, look no further than Kyle Shanahan. You want to talk about your happiest dream and your worst nightmare? It's the same opportunity. And he's had a couple nightmares here. And like the ante just gets up when you go a third time as a coach. And, I really feel for him, but there's a lot on the line.
Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show. Super Bowl 58 comes down to what, do you think?
I think it comes down to Spags against Shanahan. I mean, I don't want to be cliche here. I think Andy Reid's got the advantage over Steve Wilkes. I think they're going to be able to run the football. I think the quarterback position, you've got the advantage over Purdy. I think the offensive line, especially for San Francisco, being able to hold up in protection. Obviously, getting to Mahomes with 4 is a key. I think they'll be up to that task. I don't think it's going to be like the Tampa Bay Super Bowl where they had guys down. And like we said before the game, like this is a bad deal for Kansas City. I think it's Kansas City, and I think Kansas City is going to be able to run the football. But I do think the Spags and Shanahan chess match is going to be huge. And if Shanahan can find a way to win that chess match, then they've got a chance to stay in this game. But I think it's going to be very interesting because Kansas City has the backers that can match up in the middle of the field. They have the cover guys outside. We've said all year, I thought they had the best defense in the league. People scoffed at you at different points in the year because we got out over our skis on some defenses. But when you've got a coordinator like this and you have a dynamic interior rusher and you've got shut down, locked down guys outside, versatile guys that can play inside out, great linebackers. Willie Gay is going to be healthy. I feel like it comes down to that. It's Spags winning that battle against Kyle Shanahan. Not to say Kyle's not going to have a good day and he's going to get his plays, but I think it comes down to that matchup.
So then who are the weapons that Shanahan can exploit somehow against that defense? Let's drill down a little deeper here. What do you think?
I would try to get matchups, a Kittle matchup that might be advantageous here or there would be great. I mean, I still think he's a crazy mismatch. If you can get Debo in motion, try to dictate some of your matchups. I also think if you run the ball with authority, which is something they've been able to do at different turns this year, I mean, that's what their whole deal is built off that run game. So if you're Kansas City, can you play the edge the way you played the edge against Miami, for instance? Because I thought their game plan against Miami in both games was, hey, we're going to be aggressive and take away perimeter run game. And then we're going to disguise late on third down and in passing situations, try to confuse Brock Purdy and that sort of thing. It worked against Tua. It worked stopping the edge run game against Miami. That's the key. If they can stop the edge run game. So if you look at certain matchups, I look at these edge guys like Karlaftis and them without Omenahu, who was a force for them towards ACL. Those edge guys have got to play big. And I think the corners got to play big and aggressive. If those guys can play big in the flat, make these guys run the ball into the teeth of the defense a little bit more. And maybe that's what San Francisco says they want to do. Is we're just going to jam it up the middle. I think it comes down to matchups in the passing game. San Francisco dictating those matchups if they can with pre-snap motion, that sort of stuff. And then it comes to the edge run game. Because if they take that away, it's going to be hard for San Francisco and the disguises.
Well, I mean, obviously personnel's different, but isn't the Miami run scheme as similar to San Francisco's? I mean, McDaniel basically helped scheme it up for Shanahan before taking off to become his own HC in Miami, right, Chris?
Yeah, I think the run game, I mean, you look at Miami's run game when they're really dynamic and when they're on the ball, they're just fast to the edge. So, I mean, they're so fast to the edge, and they've got backs who are kind of interchangeable. I mean, Mostert's been great, but also A-Chain and those guys. So it kind of reminds you of a mini San Francisco situation. I don't think the quarterback's quite as good, but in Miami. But I think San Francisco, they've got a tight end, which is a big difference over Miami, who's decided to go with Durham Smythe. And I'm not saying he's a bad player. I just think George Kittle is a real plus. So you've got that real plus as a blocker, which makes your edge run game that much more dynamic. So you can compare Miami, the bones of it are the same, where what comes off of the edge run game is the play action and that sort of stuff and that West Coast based stuff. But I think the big difference is George Kittle in the run game. I talked about him as a mismatch in the pass game, depending on who he's up against, but he's a mismatch for a defensive end in the run game. And if he can abuse dudes on the edge, then he can be a differentiating factor that a Miami didn't have in that matchup.
Did you say you'd give Purdy the edge at quarterback over Tua? Did I hear that?
Oh,
one?
yeah. You?
Yeah, I listen, but Tua was an MVP candidate pretty much through the middle of November. You know what I mean?
So?
Okay. I hear you.
How did he play when he played good teams?
I know you've been down on Miami all year, Chris.
No, I mean, but does anybody on set? Would anybody on set take Tua over Purdy? I didn't take it here.
Chris?
No.
TJ?
Yeah.
You would take Tua over Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I might just be taking the opposite argument too. So
well, he also didn't live up to the moment on Paramount Mountain on that commercial as well.
That commercial was crazy.
It was
like, it was crazy because like I hate that the narrative is, even though I've perpetuated it, that the moment's too. The moment's too big.
Having Patrick Stewart saying you're not up to the moment.
Tua seems like an awesome dude, and he's had some awesome success. But like if you want to talk about Purdy. Now, Purdy's been imperfect on this run, but the thing that I think separates Purdy from other quarterbacks, and Cam's had this conversation in a lot of different ways, but if the play lasts 2.5 seconds, who you got, Tua or Purdy?
Tua, right? 2.5 seconds? No?
I'm saying over 2.5 seconds. 2.5 seconds.
I thought you said if it lasts just 2.5 seconds.
Yeah. No, I didn't say two.
Okay. Over 2.5 seconds. Sure, of course. Sure. No, I hear you.
Purdy can create, and I think like.
Oh yeah.
Listen, I know there's a lot of people that taken certain things away from Purdy, and I get it because a lot of times in this business we get so tired of hearing something. A lot of our takes, if we're not careful, are like narrative reactionary. Like we're so tired of hearing about something that we lash out and overdo our take, overcook the take. And I think some people have gotten a little down on Purdy, a little bit much, right? I think it's perfectly okay to be like, the guy's a top 10 quarterback, he's not elite. And that's all. I'll take that guy any day, right? Like, but the polarity of the conversation where some people want him to be top 3 because the stats say that, and then some people want him to be, a bottom 10 quarterback because of the surroundings, like you're going to hold that against him. I think the guy's a good player. I think he's a good player. But the guy on the other sideline is an alpha.
Not just any alpha, like maybe the greatest of all alphas. Like he's up there. He's on the Mount Rushmore of alphas. I mean, there's no.
He's got a chance. He's got a chance, man.
No, there's no doubt.
I love watching Patrick Mahomes play. He gives me an opportunity to be a fan. I don't get to do that a lot. Like you get so bogged down in this. You know what I mean, Rich?
Oh yeah.
It's
absolutely
like to get to be a fan. Anytime I watch Patrick Mahomes, it's easy to be a fan.
Well, I mean, and here's the bottom line, Chris Long. I mean, last year, Purdy blows his arm out just halfway through the first quarter of the NFC Championship game, and we're wondering all season long, all off season long, if he's going to come back and still be even a similar quarterback to last year. Not only is he, but he answers the question of can he get them even further? The answer is yes. Now, obviously, it's a team game, but he's here. They're there. They're in Vegas. They're going to play this thing. And anything can obviously happen in 4 quarters of a Super Bowl. So all comes down to it. You're still leaning Chiefs. Do I mark you down? Because you're the first guest of our Super Bowl week's worth of programs. So you're first up here.
I'll go Chiefs 27-21.
Okay. Ooh. So it's a tight one. It's a tight one. You think this is a one-score game and Kansas City wins it?
Over.
And then, I mean, Mike.
Oh, yeah, the over. I heard somebody say over. I think it's over.
That's Chris. No, not me. I don't. No, the game would be over if they have more points.
No, I think it's going over
San
total.
Francisco. Okay.
I think it's going
What
over.
is the total as we currently sit here? What is it?
It was like 47.5 last time I checked, but I've taken the weekend off.
All right. And do you think there's
47.5 still? Okay. Although it's up to 2.5 now. Chris, you see that? The Niners 2.5?
Well, I can't wait to put some more on Kansas City. I mean, listen, and the Niners could win this game. I don't want to come off as dismissive or disrespectful. Like, listen, the thing that frames this entire conversation is these two teams have done the impossible. Because I've been there twice, been on the rides, right? Like, the insanity of getting together your first team meeting in August and saying we're going to be playing in February. And there's 31 other teams, and they're all battling for the same thing. To be one of those two teams, it's incredible. And the reward for getting there is your life could be ruined or it could be made.
No biggie.
No biggie.
No pressure.
No pressure. It's just stuff like legacies and memories and feelings and fans. And, oh, my gosh, it's as big as it gets. There's no doubt about it. All right, Chris, who's on your pod this week? What are your Super Bowl shows looking like? in Vegas?
So we got a lot of people. We're partnering with Toyota, not to get corporate here, but
Go
we
for
are
it.
partnering with Toyota.
Okay.
It's my favorite kind of truck on the road there, Rich. I drive a Tundra.
Okay.
Anyways, we're going to be at the media center at their Tacoma kind of studio there. We got a Tacoma. I've always wanted a truck in my studio. We're going to be the only podcast in America possibly that actually does a podcast from inside a motor vehicle that moves. So we're really looking forward to cramming in that Tacoma and doing some content. We got a lot of people coming through. It's going to be fun. You know how it is on Radio Row. You just never know. You're like, hey, Cam Newton, come over here.
Yes.
And grab you for 15 minutes, stuff like that. I'm hoping that's what happens. We'll see.
Well, I mean, if he shows up, just don't be a podcast manager. Be a podcast changer, Chris. Be a podcast changer, which you are.
Don't forget,
Yes.
Brock Purdy is a game executive.
Ah, that's right. Very good. I forgot. Let me write that down so I can remember that.
Yeah.
Chris, you're the man. We'll speak next Monday, and we'll know. We'll have a full-on conversation about what we're about to see. You're the best.
No question, buddy. See ya.
You are the best. Green Light with podcast. Green Light with Chris Long, podcast host right there on the Rich Eisen Show. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.